In this part, we are going to talk about models. So models are kind of a way to work with your database and to store values to your columns or create tables. But before we go ahead, there is something I also forgot to show you, that we can use something like this. You can use something like this resource. Now in this resource, we can pass an array, then we can pass multiple controller for each kind of route. So we can just say photos, then we pass photos controller. Sorry guys. Then over here we can pass the notes, then we can pass the notes controller. In case you have multiple controller, you don't need to generally be creating this one after the other, just like the way we did here. You can just use an array and pass your controller, and that will definitely solve everything. So let me just go ahead and make one more controller called photos controller. So I'm just going to run php artisan make controller. I'm just going to name that photos controller. This has started again. 2 few arguments. So let me just leave it, guys. Let's leave it and go ahead. But you kind of have idea of how you can make a route. I don't know what the problem is. Photos controller. Okay. Oh, maybe it's because this was already being used. So that has already created that. So we don't have that error again. But this kind of show you how you can use multiple controllers on your multiple routes. So let's go ahead and go over to the models. So for us to work with our database, we work with the models and migrations. So whenever we create a new Laravel application, it creates a model file for us called users. So this model file is used to control the data flow from our table. Take for example, these attributes allow this to be fillable. Take for example, you cannot store values here if they are empty. The name, the email, the password must be required. Although the Laravel has a way of making sure that the value you are sending through the request must be validated, which we are going to touch when we start building our application. But over here, you can see some things that you can actually do. You can cast a value from the value to another value. Automatically, it will change that value. So you can even set the primary key. So we are not going to use this one exactly. So I'm just going to make a model. So php artisan make model. And I'm going to, oh, sorry guys, I didn't type this correctly. I'm going to make a model called notes. What did I do again? Let me just comment this out and see what that means. Maybe because when you have the same name, you can, and your web.php, you can't just use that on your command line, which is kind of cool as well. But over here, you can see that the model has been created. So in the database, all you just have to do is to make migrations, then use it together. Let's go ahead and do that. So before we use a model, let's go ahead and create a database. I'm going to come over to this .env, and I'm going to change the database name from Laravel to notes. Or let me just change it to start. When we start with the notes, then we can change it to the notes. I'm going to come over to this new tab, localhost /php myadmin. I'm going to create a new database called notes. And that's it. We don't even need to add any other thing again. We can do everything with our migration. So I'm going to make a migration right away. Even while we are creating a model, we can also make migration. We can just use the M flag. Automatically, it's going to create a migration for us. But let's just go ahead and do that on our own self. So I'm just going to run php artisan make migration. So I'm just going to create node table, and it's going to generate a node migration for us. And whenever we come over to HTTP, I think forgotten when, okay, in the database migration, now you can see the node table has been created. So we can add whatever we want to add. We can just say $table string title, $table text. You can just add the node body and the node title and save. So in our database, you don't really have that now. So the way we can do that is to run PHP Artisan migrate. But right here, you can see that we can actually drop the table. We can also add to the table. Let me just go ahead and add to the table. So I'm just going to run PHP. I don't know why I'm making a mistake in typing PHP Artisan migrate. Unknown database called stats. I think I didn't put that correctly. I created a node, not stats. I'm just going to create a stats. Later we can make use of that node. Let's run that again. And automatically generates every other migration that is in our migration folder. And let's click on this database, and automatically you can see the nodes table that we created and everything that we added, the title and the body. The timestamp is there. The timestamp happens to be this one that comes with the created ads and updated ads. And you can see we have the users, I think in the stats, we have the users over here. So everything from the users migration automatically got added. We have the string name, email. The email is unique. Everything is there. So you don't even need to bother yourself coming over to your phpMyAdmin to store data. So that's how you can store a value on your database with migrations. We have already seen how we can use the schema to add or create tables. What if you want to use the schema in your route? Let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So I imported the schema at the top over here. So you can just simply check if a table exists with the schema. So we can say schema, and schema has some options. You can see over there, we can say has table. So we want to check if the table nodes do exist. So we can just say nodes exist. So when we save this, and we can just check visits /nodes, and you can see it's going to notify us that the nodes table does exist. So let me just go back. And what if I want to rename this table called nodes? It's just very simple. You can just quickly check if that table does exist. You can just, all you just have to do is to use schema rename. We can just say schema rename. We want to rename from the nodes to new nodes. And save that and refresh our browser. Automatically it's going to return that new nodes that we just saved. So let's check in our stats. You can see automatically we have the new nodes changed for us in our database. So that's exactly what is here. So when I refresh this, my phpAdmin, and go back to the stats, you can see the new nodes. So let's go back and rename it. Name it the way it was and check for the new nodes. And let's do that. Let's refresh. I think I didn't spell that correctly. Say has table new nodes. We can just rename new nodes to the nodes. And refresh our browser. So back to nodes. Just going to change this back to nodes. So if I want to modify a column or check if a column does exist in our table nodes, is also very simple. We can do it with schema. We can just simply say schema table. We can just, let me kind of check something, guys. want to check for a column. Okay, we can just say schema has columns. So I want to check for the ID and also for the title. So we can use the if statement over here. If this does exist, this. So we can say return the ID and title. I don't know why I'm not typing perfectly today. Found. And let's save that and go back to our browser and visit the notes routes. Automatically it should show us that say to argument pass to must be a type of array given string. It says it must be a type of array. Let's kind of try. So let's say the ID and the title. And let's refresh. Has columns. I don't really know why it's not working, but let's kind of check for one column and let's see. Still not working. So I think it's only limited to the migration, but it should be found, because what if you are making a request and we want to store it from here to our database? Okay guys, let's just move ahead. We've already seen how we can rename a table. So what if we want to modify a table? Let's go ahead and try that as well, whether it's going to work outside the migration or outside our control. Of course, this is a route, it should as well work. So we can say if this does exist node, we can use the schema. We can get the table. Now the table we are going to get is the nodes table, and now for us to modify a column we need to work with the blueprints. Now let's give that a table, which is the table itself. Then we can say the table. We are getting the table nodes, right? So let's check for the table nodes. Okay. So we can say the table title, or we can rename the column. Okay, we can rename from and to. Let me clear that error. We can rename the title to new title, and we can just close that perfectly. Let's go ahead and refresh to see whether we are getting any error, and we didn't get any error. But when we go over to our nodes table, you can see we have the new title. So I think why we are not able to check whether the table does exist. But over here we can rename the column. We can also drop a column. So I can just say the table drop column. You can just drop the title. We can just drop the new title, because I'm going to re-add the title. And let's refresh. We didn't have any error. Let's check, and we drop the title. So for you to make use of all these things that is actually working here, like be able to manipulate the columns, you just have to make sure you have the debug installed. So just run this command on your command line, this composer require doctrine debug inside your project folder to install this debug. If not, you are going to get an error. So let's go ahead and see whether we can add a table. I can say we can't add a table from here. We can only add a table from the migration. So let me just go ahead. Okay, I will run the migration once more, and that should solve it. So that's how we can actually rename our columns and also drop columns. So if you also want to add an index to a column, let's say I want to add an index to the email. So let me just quickly go ahead and run the migration once more. So I've run that, and I want to add an index to our title. So back in the notes, I want to add an index to our title. So I can just say $table. I can just let's say the string. I think we have it as a string of title, and I can just make it unique, and that will make that unique. You can also, yeah, that will make it unique. You can also do it this way. So we can say unique. You can just add the title. Any way you want to do it, it will actually work. So this is unique. So that will solve it, and let's refresh our browser. Oh, drop duplicate column title. Column already exists. I'm trying to add a title or what? Okay. Or let me just, maybe that's for when you are creating the table, but let's just say unique title. And let's save that and give it a refresh. And that should add that to our notes. So that has added it to our title. So the other one is for when you are creating a table. So over to the models, we've really worked with this migration a lot, or the schema. We really worked it there. What if we go over to the model right away? So in the model, you can actually rename the name of the table from notes to notes. It all depends on what you want to do. You can also set a primary key. Let's say you want to set a primary key. You can just say quickly primary key. You can just set it to maybe title or the ID. So maybe your primary key is a string. Maybe you can just change it to the title to be the primary key. But it doesn't really make sense like that. But it all depends on what makes sense for you. You can also make this to use another database connection. In case you are using multiple database connection, you can just use, I think I shouldn't be clearing all those things. I should just leave it. So we have the primary key. I'm just going to comment those things. So this one is, let's say I want to connect to another database. I can just say connection. So if I have another database that is not the current database I'm using for this application, which is the one that we did set in our .env file, which is this start. If I have another database, I can just, oh, sorry for that little noise, guys. I can just change this over here. I can just maybe use the new DB. So that's how you can set a new database. So guys, there's also some things that we can also change. So whenever you create a migration, it comes with this timestamp. So if you're not if you're not relaxed with the names that it uses for you on the column, like the created ads or of the updated ads, you can also change it from your model. You can just simply say const created ads. You can just say something like creation date, and also const updated ads. You can just change it to last update. So it all depends on your choice, and you can always clear your, you can always do wipe, then you can run your migrate again to create those migrations for you with everything here. And you can also chunk your results. So before we go over to the chunking results, we need to talk about the Artisan. So in the next part of the video, we are going to talk about the Artisan commands. Then we can come over to the model and make use of this model to actually grab data from our database in our routes and display those data in the client side, which is the UI. Then we can then go ahead to chunk our results. So guys, do make sure you hit the like button and also the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.